Hey, everybody. I'm here with a friend of mine that I'm so excited for you to meet. Her name is Kristen McCall. She is an online marketing coach and fractional chief marketing officer, very similar to what I do. And we have a lot in common. And we're going to be sharing with you what it's like to be a consultant in the wild.
Love it. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Laura.
Yeah, I feel like I need some animal noises or something whenever
I
I say that.
know, like a
Consultant.
tiger roaring or something.
Consulting in the wild.
Oh, I
Rawr.
love it.
I know. I know. We don't want to show up as like cougars though, because that would be bad.
No, that's bad. I'm not that.
That doesn't have the right connotation that we're going for today. It's all about the right message, right?
I know, right?
So, I know, tell me a little bit about let's just do a quick summary of your background. And then I want to
Yeah,
chat about being a fractional chief marketing officer, which
absolutely.
helped you get going. And then they'll be really fun to talk about.
Totally. Okay. So my career is really wild and windy. So I'm going to bullet point it because I've been down a whole lot of different paths, but I studied public relations and advertising in school. So that's my background. And I, I graduated during the financial crisis recession of '08 and took any job I could find. And I thought my first job was a copywriting job at this agency here in Nashville. And it turns out on my first day, they said, "Hey, you're the new web girl." And I was like, "Excuse me?" They're like, "Yeah, you're building websites." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I knew this much small amount of HTML and I just dove in and I built over 300 websites in 2 years. And it was crazy bananas. Fast forward, I dipped my toe into the entrepreneurial world, had always had a creative flair and was a wedding and portrait photographer for a while. Was award-winning, published in magazines, and then my life kind of fell apart and I found myself going through a divorce, newly pregnant, and I was sitting at the end of an aisle photographing a wedding and wanted to yell, "Don't do it!" And then I was like, perhaps you shouldn't be a wedding photographer.
Right. Perhaps it's time to move on.
Yes. So God provided, and I got a wonderful job at a local university. And I was managing the website, the social media, the email marketing for the whole university. Fast forward, I was a publicist at a traditional publishing company. And I helped all of our big deal New York Times bestselling authors develop their platform and the digital arm of what they did. So whenever they had a book launch, I would help with what are the digital components, how do they utilize their social media, their blog, all of that. So then I went out on my own after that, and for the last 7+ years, I've kind of hopped around to different consulting, freelance situations. I was a coach in a well-known program called 2CCX, which is run by a software company called ClickFunnels. So I was teaching other entrepreneurs, how do you make $1 million in your business? So I've been a coach and a consultant in a wide variety of roles, but not really to the level of what I'm doing now until you and I kind of started talking end of last year, about in December.
Okay, so that's a great lead in because your background is so varied. And I'm sure for so many people who are listening who have a marketing background, it's very natural to kind of feel like it's this long and windy road.
Yeah.
with no end in sight, right? Where you love marketing, you're good. So you have great people skills from being a wedding photographer because that's no joke.
100%.
You have great design skills. You have great web skills, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard to know how all of that's going to come together.
Yeah.
And we're in a mastermind together. And one time you came to me and you were like, "Laura, what do you do again?"
I was like, I feel like I should know what you do.
You're like, "That sounds pretty good to me."
I will never forget the first time you kind of introduced what you do. And I was like, oh yeah, that sounds awesome.
It is because you get to take all of your experiences, right? The hard ones, the great ones, the hard lessons learned, and you get to package it all up and help somebody else be better off because of those experiences, right?
Absolutely.
So it's super rewarding in that way. We started chatting about what I do, right?
Yeah.
And I started working with you and helping you get that up and running. And when the first time you started kind of thinking about being a CMO or a fractional CMO, like what were some of the first kind of experiences that you had just getting it up and going?
Yeah. I mean, I think my first kind of aha was like, people will pay me just for what I know and not to do all the things.
Right.
Like that kind of aha of like, hey, I'm going to show up. I'm just going to tell you what to do, which I like doing because I'm bossy sometimes. And then you and your team go do it. And then I just remember thinking, oh my goodness, this is life-changing. Because I have such an eye for kind of the whole process of marketing through sales, that to be able to just download, hey, these are my recommendations, and this is what needs to happen. And the first time I actually did that, and then also when you're making great money, I mean, it's just like, oh, this is fabulous. So yeah, it's been really great.
Yeah, it's so interesting when we think about like what makes somebody really good at this work, right? It's the variety of experiences. It's the confidence in being able to tell somebody what to do and how to do it, which, takes time. Like the more that you get people results, the more confident that you will be.
Yep.
And then also, like that kind of business, I feel like is rarely spoken about, the type of business that's higher ticket, lower volume.
Yep.
How many clients are you taking right now?
I mean, I maxed out last month. I have Post-it notes. You'll laugh at me. I maxed out at five clients. And this month, one of my clients is much more high ticket and much more involved at this. I'm kind of helping him set up some of his stuff. Which I'm kind of taking a little bit of a mix of an agency and a CMO. Like, I have people on my team that are kind of building some of the things. I'm not doing any of it, which is great. But I'm just kind of steering the ship. But that's taking a little bit more of my time. So right now I only have 2 clients, which is amazing and awesome. And I don't have as many meetings on my calendar every week, which is just really great.
Yeah, it is a good combination between agency. I feel like agency services and done for you and done. It's kind of that magic combination of people wanting done for you.
Yep.
Right. And then done with you.
100%.
It's a very different relationship. Like, what do you think those two relationships, how do they contrast for you?
Yeah, I think what I've learned, even with just my first handful of clients, is what to look for when I want to be a CMO. I'm looking for a CEO that's willing to listen.
Yeah.
I'm also looking for a marketing team or a marketing manager or somebody boots on the ground in the marketing department that is skilled, that knows what they're doing, that I can say, hey, go do this. And they know what I'm talking about. Because if you don't have that marketing person, or if the volume of revenue for the company isn't to that point where they have a marketing team, I mean, it's kind of pointless. Like I can tell you all the strategy all day long, but if there's nobody there in the company to do it, like it doesn't. I had that situation one time and then I was like, oh, we need an actual person in here doing all of these things. So kind of the things that I look for on that aspect are what I just listed. And then in the more agency side, let's say, so one of my clients right now came to me. He's a very big deal author, expert, thought leader, has made most of his money coaching. So very high ticket, ultra wealthy, high-end coaching, but he doesn't have any digital products. So he wanted more of a digital product arm of his business to reach more people. And he's very knowledgeable. So I'm helping him build that digital arm while also providing some strategy and what does that sales process look like on your high ticket side as well as your digital product side. And looking for people that you just genuinely enjoy talking to. I don't want to have meetings on my calendar where I'm like, oh, I really don't like those people. I don't want to get on a call with them or whatever. So
yeah. I mean, the cool thing about this kind of offer is there's more people out there that need our help than there are people like us that do the work. 100%. And so if somebody comes your way and they're not a good fit or it's just not a good vibe, like some people you vibe well with and some people you don't.
Yeah. And the other part too is learning. I think the hardest part, at least for me so far, and I'm about 6 months in, has been learning who my ideal target audience is. And that's just the hardest part. I helped a couple of people and one of them was in the e-commerce space. And that's just not, I don't have enough experience. So I'm not as confident.
Right.
And I just didn't know really how that industry worked. It is so different from the online only digital products, coaches, consultants, that kind of thing. It is so much different that it was almost like outside of my level of knowledge and expertise. Yeah. So I wasn't able to really create as much impact as I would have liked because I just didn't understand it as well.
It's so funny. I took one e-commerce client once in the beginning, never again. Same thing. And, but what's really exciting is that we have free people who are students in my fractional program who have an e-commerce background.
So great.
And it's still the same principles, right? Like consulting is still helping businesses that are fundamentally a sum of moving parts.
Yep.
Right. Like, it's not like, I mean, it's get the lead, convert,
right. 100%.
Hold some kind of, ask them to buy, follow up. Like
exactly.
It's all the same.
The basics are in place. Yes.
Right. Exactly. 100%. And then when you start getting used to different types of offers and how they show up, then you start really seeing trends and being able to speak intelligently to like what's working now.
Yep.
Which is one of the things I really love about this work. And so when you're kind of thinking about how, if somebody else was really interested in being a marketing consultant, what are some of the things that you would tell them?
Yeah, I would say sit down and list out kind of all of your either clients or job experiences and kind of what you learned at each of those things. It will help you just have the confidence to step into more of a consultant role because you'll be able to see, oh man, I do know, aesthetically pleasing photography and web design and blah, blah, blah. Like you'll be able to build your own confidence because what I've seen, the more that I've talked to other people, some of our friends in our mastermind or other people, they're like, oh, that sounds amazing. How could you do that? And the thing that I see is, especially women, and I'm very passionate about this, but I think women have a really hard time charging what we're worth. Yeah. And saying my minimum price is $5,000 per month and like not flinching and not having second guessing yourself, because on the sales side, as a CMO or as a fractional CMO or consultant, you're still going to have to do the sales to close that client, right? You're going to have to show up on the sales call or have somebody else on your sales team closing those deals for you. And you have to have the confidence. You can't sell what you don't feel confident in. So you need to know what you're worth and just be able to have some of those stories in your bank of like, okay, I helped this person do this. This is some of my case studies. These are the kinds of clients that I help and those kinds of things.
Yeah, that's so smart. And I think for me, it was actually kind of liberating to not have to worry about charging what I was worth anymore.
Yeah.
Because when I started realizing that it was really just comes down to like, are they going to make more money than they're paying me?
Right.
Then it's kind of just like my self-worth is like kind of irrelevant.
Right.
It's just, are you the kind of business and do I have the right tools to provide to you within a time frame? And do you have the right infrastructure to implement the advice 100%. So that you're always making more money than what you're paying me and getting an ROI? And then we have a great relationship.
100%.
Until you're done getting an ROI from me, and then we remain friends, which is
100%.
how what's happened with a lot of my clients, and that's worked out awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other part on kind of the sales side is screen your clients really well.
Yes.
And some of that happens in that discovery call or that introduction call where you guys are getting to know each other. And one of the things that I ask and I look out for is to ask them things like, okay, what are your goals for 2022? Mm-hmm. Because that helps me know, are you realistic or are you bogus and you think Mary Poppins is going to come into your business? Like people who think that I'm the magic pill to change their whole business, I don't want to work with those people. Mm-hmm. I had a conversation with someone and they wanted to double their revenue from a certain amount of millions to another certain amount of millions. And I was like, okay, so you're an all digital product. Like it's possible.
Yeah, for sure. I've had clients do that.
And I said, but what was your revenue like in the first quarter of this year? And they're like, oh, it was down by so-and-so %. And it was a significant amount down. And I was like, okay, so just to clarify, you're down a certain amount of percent, but you want me to come up and make up all that difference and double your revenue in 3 quarters. And she was like, yes. And I was like, okay, well, that's not going to work. Like,
right.
It's like, so asking those questions on the front end will help you be a good consultant and make the right decision for who you're working for, so you don't set yourself up for disaster with clients that have really unreasonable expectations.
Yeah, I love that. And even for the cool thing about a multi-million-dollar business is that even if you move them 5%,
right,
like they're making money on your retainer.
Exactly.
So exactly, they don't have to double their revenue to make money on it. They can increase 20% and do great.
100%.
And everybody's happy. And usually that's more, it's, everybody enjoys it more.
Yep.
And it's a much more realistic prescription.
Yep.
So just kind of as we're wrapping up, because I thank you so much for sharing this. It's been so fun.
Absolutely.
And I love chatting with other marketing people. So
I do too.
Marketing people are my people. It's probably the same for you too.
Yep, absolutely.
And so just, if you wouldn't mind kind of contrasting your just your business and really your life, like before I helped you get this consulting offer off the ground versus like today, like what was happening at that time, and then kind of where are you now?
Yeah. So end of last year, I've been on my own as an entrepreneur for the last 8+ years, but I think I held out. I'm a really high performance like go-getter. And I think I had held out this candle that I was going to be some like bigwig executive at some point. And a recruiter actually found me on LinkedIn and said, hey, there's this coaching consulting company here in town. They're willing to, they really want to interview. Anyway, long story short, I took this job that I thought was going to be just like the bee's knees. It was a very well-known company kind of in our industry. I was a director of marketing. I was managing over $500,000 of ad spend a month. And so I was like, this is going to be great. This is going to be awesome. Turns out, newsflash, I don't like full-time jobs in case I didn't already know that, but it was the first time I had a job since I had kids. And I was like, oh, this does not work with our lifestyle as a family of 3 kids and a husband and a dog. Like that does not work. Mom needs to not have a full-time job. Yes. I do not need to go into an office. Like there were just all these lifestyle things and values that I have that I was like, oh my gosh, this does not work at all. Which is why kind of at the end of last year, I had this like, aha, kind of like, what the heck am I doing with my life? But it was the missing piece that I needed to move my confidence up. Which is kind of what we've talked about a lot today, is just, you do have to have the confidence and that you know what you're talking about. Because last year I was just kind of playing small. I was teaching sales funnels 101 to some coaches and just like really basic stuff, which there's nothing wrong with that. And there's a need in the market for people to understand that. I'm just not that person. I'm not good at it. Like, I don't want to talk to people that don't understand the basics. I don't want to talk to people that don't understand the difference between a Facebook group and a Facebook page. And if that's your question, I am targeting the wrong people.
I'm not your girl.
I'm not your girl. So having that job and kind of realizing, actually, no, I want to be an entrepreneur. That is absolutely like the beat of my heart. I want to help people and I really know what I'm talking about. Which is great. It was a good aha. I'm very stubborn, so I have to fail in order to learn things. So anyway, fast forward, and having this consulting arm of my business has allowed me to make more money than I've ever made. It's allowed me to have more time with my kids. I'm able to go to lunch at school, and I'm able to take off at 2:00 to get my preschooler if I need to. I'm able to not, like, my whole calendar isn't, morning, noon, and night meetings. I have a limited number of meetings. I've actually been able to craft my ideal week. Like, I've heard that saying and tried to do that for years, probably a decade. And I've been like, my ideal calendar. And then I'm like, no, that doesn't work. I have too much on my plate. But now I'm actually able to say, okay, Monday and Tuesdays are my client meeting days. Wednesdays are more of my personal days. I do gym and counseling, and I'm able to afford as much counseling as I want, which is awesome.
Oh, and thank the Lord.
Yes, praise Jesus. And then Thursday is more kind of like friend day, I make sure to have a lunch with a friend. Just, I'm able to do a lot of these things. I've been able to pay for stuff for my family that I've never been able to. I mean, it's just, and my husband kind of looks at me. I've had a lot of success in various ways in my career, but this is the first time he looked at me and was like, dang girl, like, you know what you're doing. And I'm like, I know, isn't that great? It's kind of like the first time he was like, man, this is really, really, really paying off. I'm like, yes, it is. I do know what I'm talking about. And it's kind of the first time in my career that all of it has come together in a way that it just really fits all of my giftings. So yeah, it's just been a really cool process.
I love hearing that. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that makes my heart so happy.
I
Because I've had
know.
the same experience.
Oh my gosh, all thanks to you too. Laura's like probably mad at me. I keep telling people to box her and she's like, don't tell them to box her me.
Well, that's why I started a program.
I know. And this is why I was like, Laura, you need a program. You're so good at what you do.
Oh, well, thank you. And it was a joy to help you one-on-one. I really enjoyed it. And
for
me, watching your transformation was encouragement to me that
100%.
more people need to know how to do this.
100%.
The truth is, like, I'm happy to feature you on my podcast. I'm happy to teach other people because there's so many business owners in that multi-million-dollar range, like beyond info products, in retail,
100%.
in commerce, in brick and mortar services, right? There's so many like law firms who don't even know what a funnel is, right?
No.
And would pay whatever to learn.
Yeah.
So,
and
you could get into so many different niches, tomato.
Yeah.
But you could get into so many different areas of specialty. Just using the process that I use. And for me, it was the same thing. Like I had so many different marketing and branding experiences. And when I fell into consulting and really spent years just refining it and figuring it out, a lot of what you shared today, like making sure that you have a clear target, making sure you know exactly who you're serving, and there's certain processes and steps that I use. Once I refined that, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is such a great lifestyle business. I think particularly for moms and particularly for people with a marketing background that don't want to work full time and who are really good at marketing.
Yeah. And I think it really hits the nail on the head on like moms there's so many moms that I know that have an incredible professional experience, but, stayed home with their kids when they were little, but still want to use their brain and talk to people older than 5 years old and like all of those things. Right. And I think the consulting piece is really something that moms especially could just benefit from tremendously. So I'm so glad you're doing this.
Yes, I'm so excited too. Well, thank you for sharing your experience
absolutely.
with everybody who's listening on being a consultant and your background. And I'm sure people will want to get in touch with you and just learn more about what you do, especially because you offer agency services and I don't. So that could be a great fit for anyone who's listening. What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah. So they can go to my website, which is Kristen, Kristen, McCall, MCCALL.com. So that's probably the best way. I have all my social links on there. All my social handles are Kristen S as in Sam McCall. So you can find me on Instagram and Facebook and all of those places.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, thanks so much, Laura.
And I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.